Hi, everybody. In this video, we're going to go over how to create a CMA report, so a comparative marketing analysis for a property, like a subject property. There's a few different ways to end up doing this, depending on which search tool that you end up using. I'm going to show you the ways in which I know how to do it, and some ways that are going to, get you into a problem with the system that I originally had when I was trying to make a CMA personally. So we're just going to get started in how Rapatoni actually sets up their CMA. So that being said, for this first example, we're going to assume that you have maybe like a property in mind, that you're already looking to get a comparative market analysis. Like, let's say you're making a CMA for like a buyer, like you want to just get them comps. And most people aren't going to make a CMA necessarily for, before you submit an offer. You probably just send comps to your clients. But we'll just go over that way first, just so we can have it. And then we can go about how we would actually create a CMA for your seller as well. So this is just a buyer example. And you can either search a property using, a quick tool, or let's just say your client saw a property and they want to make an offer on that property. We're just going to go to the new listings just to pick a random one at that. So let's say, for instance, you showed this property to your client. It was a new property that came on the market. They said, "Hey, Jason, I want to see this property." You show it to them. They say, like, "Okay, great. What's the property worth? And I'd like to, essentially know how much to offer on this property." So when you have the property selected, again, I've said this a million times, we want to definitely refer to the toolbar. Now, there is no CMA option at the toolbar in this case, and that's because we don't have any comparables for the property itself. So at the top, it does give you the options to find comparables for this property. Now, this tool is not going to, the find comparables tool in the toolbar is not going to be, great in every situation. So let's just see what happens when we click find comparables. Okay. Now, notice the format. Before we even get to, like, are these comps good or not? Like, let's just look at the format so it can already see how this would potentially work out. It's gearing us towards a CMA format as of right now by, categorizing the property that we initially did the find comparables for as the subject property. And as we go through the CMA, you'll notice that making a property the subject property is kind of like the main point in how you build your CMA around this particular property. So if you do have a listing selected and you hit the find comparables tool, it's already getting you ready to, essentially create a CMA. So I'm not going to go through all these comps. You're going to notice that, some of these are in different areas, or different subdivisions and whatnot. I'm trying to see if there's any. Yeah, so some are in Piscataway, some are Edison, Piscataway. So not all of these are going to be great. And the reason behind that is that it has like this system already set for finding comparables. And the way that you can actually go through and find out like what system it's actually using is if you go to admin and you go to find comparables setup. Now, find comparables setup is going to actually show you what tools it's using to be able to pull properties. So right now it's only pulling properties that have closed, bedrooms plus and minus within like one or minus one of the subject property itself, bathrooms of minus and plus one of the subject property, which might not be, completely, a bad idea. But, some of these other things like square footage and whatnot, like, or the radius, for instance, it goes as far as a mile. Maybe you wouldn't want to do that for this particular property in this particular area. Maybe you would want to stick to a quarter mile, but you can go about, limiting the comparable search. You can do it by square footage. You can do it by lot size as well. But it's just a very basic tool. So, if you find that the comparables that you're actually getting aren't that great, you can always go in here and tweak it. And let's just try it. So we did it for a quarter mile, and I'm sure the properties are going to be a little bit better for the find comparables tool. This might not be the way in which you go about finding comparables for a property, but I'm just showing you the various ways that I was able to find out. So this is the original listing that we were going in, at least I hope so. Yep. Then we're going to hit the Find Comparables tool again. And now within a quarter mile, it's like both of them are Edison Hollow. We're not seeing any ones from Piscataway because like a mile in this particular area might be kind of troublesome. Let's say, I mean, these were on the market for, 100 days and whatnot. Like, you're getting like the closest proximity to these properties by doing it that way. Maybe you would want to expand your search, but if a client was okay, or if I was okay with valuing this home based off of like 2 comparables sold, then yeah, I would go ahead and select these and move forward. So again, you have to select these to be able to complete the CMA. But let's go ahead and say, all right, let's create a CMA for your client. Or maybe you don't want to send the full listing sheets to your client. Maybe you just want to send a one-page report to them, and we'll go about doing that. So after you select your properties, your subject property is already going to be selected. So you just have to select the ones that you want to use as comps. And then you can hit CMA. So there's a few different formats that you could do. There's the 3-up comparison report, and we'll click that one first. There's the CMA 2-line and CMA package. The CMA package is going to be the complete report that you guys are going to be used to when you're sending something over to maybe like a seller that wants to list their property. That'll be like the full package you end up sending them. Well, let's just see what it does for the 3-up comparison report. So once you have that selected, again, go to the toolbar and select Go. Just give me 1 second. So, okay, now this is the 3-up comparison report. We have the subject property right here, and just comparing like the basic stats about the home, right in comparison to the other ones. You're not like seeing any pictures. It's not like this full detailed report. It's just one page that goes over the very basics. So maybe you would want to send this to a buyer. Maybe you'd want to send them more information. Completely up to you. So now we're going to create another CMA, the CMA 2-line. CMA 2-line doesn't create any pictures. It just has it more in like a different format, just purely numbers. Maybe you would want to use this when sending to an investor. Maybe you wouldn't use this at all, but again, these are just like quick reports that you can actually create. And then for the last one, we'll actually go into the full CMA, and then I'll go back and show you how to add a subject property. But we're just assuming that, all right, we did these comps and now we want to create a full CMA for a buyer, which maybe you wouldn't want to do that. But again, I'll just show you how. So clicking CMA, going to CMA package, selecting Go. Now it says, let's get started. This is a walkthrough of what it's going to look like. The system itself, provides you with a walkthrough every time you do it. So the first thing it asks for contact information. This is not your contact information. This is the contact information for your client, whether it's a buyer or a seller that you're creating a CMA for. So if you don't have the client in the system already, you can select Create New, and it'll prompt you with a prompt for their name, for their status, for their property type, or for their just their type as a client and whatnot. And you can fill it out, and then you can go ahead and move from there, or you could go ahead and select existing, and it'll bring you up to your clients. And I'll just select myself in this one. Let's see. So it already says that I have a CMA prepared for myself, which I did when I was creating examples. So some of the options that it gives you is to overwrite the existing CMA. So maybe for a seller or a buyer, you create multiple CMAs. You can always, click overwrite, or if you go to your contacts and you manage your contacts by contacts and prospects, your CMAs are automatically going to save to your clients there. So if you are ever looking for a CMA that you've already done for your client, it's going to be attached to that client already. You can go through contact and prospects to be able to find them. So I'm just going to say overwrite. Great. So this is the subject person, or this is the client. You can always edit their contact information. So the first page it comes to with you for the CMA is the field section. So if you have to the right-hand side, you have the fields that are selected. And you can, take out the selected fields if they're not necessary to this property. And on the left-hand side, the available ones are, you can always search through them right here on the search bar, or you can just scroll down and select the ones that you want added. And again, it appears to the right-hand side. Like I know we have association fee. Again, they're going to be in the same complex. So maybe that's not pertinent information, but you could always add it if you were comparing association fees amongst different complexes. Or maybe there's association fee differences within the community based off of the size of the unit itself. So you could go ahead and add whichever ones might be necessary to your property. And then when you have all of them selected, you can always save as default. If you notice that on the ones that you have selected that, hey, I really do want some of these like annual taxes, appliances, like that kind of stuff, I want it added to my selected field as the default, so you don't have to keep adding them back later. You can always hit save as default, and it will save that for you moving forward rather than just creating it for this particular report. So once you're done on this page and you're ready to move on, you can go ahead and select subject property. Now, because we did the CMA this way, it already has the subject property selected, which is not going to be the case all the time. Again, it only has the subject property selected is if you've already searched for that property and then you hit the find comparables tool for that property, because the system now knows that, okay, you're comparing these properties to this initial property. So in our next example, when we're creating one for like a seller, or we're doing it in a different way, the system's not going to know which one's the subject property, and I will show you how to add that. But for this part, if you're watching this and you're getting frustrated because you're like, I don't know what the subject property is, or the system doesn't know what the subject property is, I'll either make one long video or cut it into two, but just know that we will go over that. So subject property, these are all the features. You can alter the features this way. So once you're ready to move on, once you have all the features or for the subject property filled in, then you can move along. Again, if you were doing this process and you didn't have the subject property selected, you could select get listing data, and you can put in the listing number here, and it will then populate it. If it's not in the listing, then it'll give you the option to manually add the subject property yourself, especially if the home hasn't been sold in 20 some odd years and there is no listing data in the MLS, you might have to add it manually. And then you could add pictures to that as well. But we will go over that later. So when you're ready to move on, there's no go button at the top. You have to manually select the next step. So now we're going to adjustments. So it has your subject property detailed. It has the current property that you're going on right now. And excuse me. Yeah. So it has the subject property. It has the current property, and it has the adjustments that you're making. So we have a few properties to go off of. So we have the first property selected up here. And then once you select the next one, then it'll have the differences over here, but it just keeps it nice and clean for you. So we're going to start with the first property. So our subject property has 2 bathrooms, 2 total, and this one has 1 full bathroom. So if I am familiar with the area or the complex itself, and I know that that extra bathroom is going to add, let's say just $10,000, or, we're just making like a blanket statement here that might not be correct, but let's say 10,000. Then you notice the adjusted price goes up by 10,000 as well. The original price is 188. This is how you go about doing those things and adding these adjustments based off of that. And then it's going to say, your total adjusted prices. And then you can go for this one as well. Let's just assume that this is pretty close and that we're ready to go. But this is, again, how you make adjustments and how to alter the listing itself. Then you can go to analysis. You can do a suggested price, like if you want to include in the report your suggested price for your client. Maybe you would want to say, I don't know, something like 230 through, 240,000 if you were so inclined. And then when you're ready, or you can add a comparable listing here too. If you say, all right, you know what, these two aren't going to do it for me, or I found another one and you already created the report, when you go back to analysis, you can now add a comparable listing and then add it this way and add the MLS number in here. And once it's added here, then you could go back to adjustments. It should appear here. And then you could go and make the adjustments based off of that. Okay, so now we're going to assume that we have all that information. We're ready to assemble the package. Click Assemble Package. And these are the documents that end up coming up like as a staple. If again, there's some things in here maybe you would never include or wouldn't want to include because you don't have it filled out. Me personally, I don't have an agent resume selected in the system. I know you could go to your settings, your preferences, modify your profile, and then find the agent resume that it has, but like mine's not filled out, so it's going to come up as a relatively blank page, or just having not filled out all that information. Maybe the office resume as well probably has the same thing. Seller's net sheet, like whatever you want to include in the report, you can absolutely go ahead and do that. You can revise certain documents like the cover letter, the resume, the seller's net sheet. You can go and preview all these documents. Like if you click the listing presentation cover page, you can preview it. And sometimes it doesn't transfer over, so just give me 1 second. So here we go. This is the front page of the report, and I didn't add commas, so it doesn't look that great right here. But the suggested sale price ends up going on the first page of the contract, or the first page of the CMA, if that's the order you want to have it put in. So you can always preview these documents. You can always make adjustments based off of that. You can change the order of these documents to however you want by selecting it with your mouse and then moving it along up and down, whatever page you want in one section or the other, however you like it. You can always do that. You can add documents if you have documents yourself that you wanted added to it. Like let's say maybe you work in a particular community a lot and you have a list of features for the community or whatever may have you that you want added to this to make yourself appear more knowledgeable or to show your knowledge that you have in this area. You can then add documents to be like your staple, or maybe you want to create your own PDF of an office or agent resume or some of your marketing material that you want to include in this as well. You could add those documents. You could add reports to it. And then when you do have all that stuff added, if those are going to be staples to your business and to your CMAs, then you can go ahead and save it as default so you don't have to add it each time. So once you have all the documents selected and you want to do it, then you could go ahead and either email the report to your client, or you can print it out. And those are the two options that we have here. There's a print button over to the right as well. So it looks like I selected a seller's net sheet, but didn't actually have the report created, which is fine. This is just for an example anyway. So we hit print preview. So I just hit print preview and I'm just waiting for it to transfer to this page. You should see it. This is just a print preview of how the report's going to look. You can always add stuff and take it out as you see fit. You can open as a PDF and then save it. You can just print it from here, or again, you can go back to this page when you're ready and just email it over. And then when you hit email, you can go ahead and email it over to your client. It already has the email address filled out if you put your client information in there with their email address. And then you can just create like short notes about the property, the subject of what you want your email to be, just saying like, hi, this is Jason, here is the CMA that I promised for this property. Please take a look at it, let me know what you think, like something like that, whatever you want to do. And then when you're ready, you go to the top and submit send email. So that's just, I'm going to make another video just for like creating a CMA for the seller and like how to add a subject property. So look out for that on the next video. Again, if anybody has any questions, about creating the CMA. I know it can be kind of confusing, so definitely feel free to reach out. But thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.